So why not, for 50 cents a day, take a complete multivitamin mineral and call it a night?
All right, we are back for another episode of Sup Beast. As always, Zane Spruce, got our expert here, Neal Spruce, and we're going to be picking up where we left off with the micronutrient episode, and that was sort of an overview of micronutrients and how they work as a whole. This one we're going to go over, as promised, the individual ones, and specifically the ones of concern that we had mentioned in the episode, where there's about 20 of them, you said.
Potentially underconsumed, about 20 of them, but there's about 10 that are of serious concern in overall health.
Right. Going to go over those and get into the individual ones and kind of say where you can find them, or if you need to be supplementing them, and kind of their functions as individuals. But as we learned in the last one, things don't work in a vacuum like that when it comes to micronutrients. So let's get started here. So what makes kind of is in the wording itself, what is a micronutrient? What makes it of concern, a micronutrient?
Yeah, micronutrients are vitamins and minerals is what we refer to generally, and of course the omega-3s, we talked about as well. But these are shortcomings in the American diet. And I should say all Western nations. We pretty much all eat alike in developed nations, so somewhat, is when it comes to the amount of nutrition we're getting in our foods. So our foods supply all the macros, the protein, fats, and carbs, like we talked about. That's where our calories come from. But the micronutrients are what you make your whole metabolism work. So when you don't get enough, as we talked about before, it just downregulates to what you give it. So you're just not functioning the best you can. Mm-hmm. So the ones of concern, when you get to that level, those are the ones that we find across the Western diet, the average Western intake, and we have all the stats on what people are eating in the United States or whatever country. We have them in all the countries pretty much. But we have all the stats of the typical intakes of vitamin A, B, C's, D, E, K, and then your minerals. We have all that. And when we look at it all, we have good. There's some that you're always going to get. You don't have to worry about where, like we talked about that, like sodium. I say you can't live without it, but geez, we all get too much of it. So there's things like that. But there's about 20 that are generally underconsumed. A significant portion of those 20 are potentially underconsumed by the average American based on all of our records of diet intake. And there's about 10, like I said, that are nutrients of concern, which means they are below the estimated average intake of what is known to be good for 50% of the population. The other 50% is not good for. It's even way too low for them. So those are the ones that we really have to worry about, because as we talked about, all of these vitamins and minerals work together. They don't work by themselves. Yeah. They have 200 or 300 different destinations in the body as an antioxidant, as keeping our muscles contracting, all of these different functions, and they work together. Right. Okay, and so when you're missing one of those, a domino effect takes place. I'm saying missing. No one's an overt deficiency. You're going to get sick and die. Okay, if you don't fix it, that's completely different. We don't have too much of that nowadays, other than maybe vitamin D these days. So again, these nutrients of concern. And if I have to remember them correctly, and we can always relook them up, but these are the ones that the government, the Dietary Guidelines of America, they have named it, the ones in these last 5 years are A, D, E, C.
I mean, I have the list right
here.
Yeah,
read it to it. Read the list off.
There's, I think, 11 that are listed here.
Okay.
Of like serious concern.
Yeah.
As you said, there's 20, but there's, as you said,
just 20 that are generally underconsumed,
right?
Potentially. But the ones that are really underconsumed, let's just do it that for everyone.
So we got vitamin A, C, D, E, and then we got folate, magnesium, iron, calcium, potassium, and fiber.
Right. Yeah.
If we're gonna
those are and again, these are all essential to life. And we're really taking a low amount of those in. So all our systems are being compromised by those. So they're listed of nutrients of concern because they're way below the recommended intake, significantly below, because of the foods we're choosing. And sadly enough, it's because all these new diets that are out there, they omit entire food groups. So you're no more zinc in your diet, and these things. Good news, people don't stay on these diets for very long. But the bad news is that they're really getting our underconsumed nutrients aren't getting better; they're getting worse, and yet we're getting fatter. So what's that tell you? It tells you that we are caloric dense foods, not nutrient dense foods. And that's what you really want. But nutrient dense foods just don't taste that good. That's the problem.
So when you say things don't work in a vacuum, so there's people, they're going to supplement a specific vitamin to try to self-cure an ailment that they might be like, or a side effect they're feeling in life.
I'm not a fan of anybody, I won't call it medicating, but self-vitamining or mineralizing, something. Because I guess I'll ask that all the time. The simple solution to it all is a good, real, complete, third-party tested multivitamin mineral that has the 20 known underconsumed in it.
Right.
And you've taken care of your baseline. Now, if you have a genetic malabsorption of folate, which is somewhat common, okay? Now, when I say common, I'm sorry, it's very uncommon, but there's a significant portion of people that might have that. Or you have, your body just doesn't do well with other certain vitamins like vitamin E, you might want to go to a specialist. They would do your biomarkers and see what's there, and they would say, okay, now, the amount of vitamin E in your complete multi is not enough. Or your amount of vitamin C, like I always tell people, like myself, I take a separate C.
Right.
But I get as much as any average person would need, let's just say, a sedentary person, about 1,000 milligrams a day. Well, you can't put any more than that in a complete multi, or it's going to be too big. You'd be swallowing a shoe. So you have to have a separate one. So that's the time. Like vitamin D, vitamin C, those are generally, and vitamin E, you can buy those things separately. But if you're going to do that, just make sure you still need your complete multi. Mm. Because those three things aren't going to work in a vacuum by themselves, and now you're low on other things, so they're not going to do as well. So get your baseline covered first with the 20 covered, right? And then after that, if you're going to go separate, like D, very common, C, very common, or those are the two that you would go over the amount.
Yeah, and so
for even greater health.
Yeah, and
but
then,
not too much.
And then also, like as we were saying, if you're going to be vitamizing yourself, then you have to be careful, right? With especially fat soluble vitamins and minerals, right?
Yeah.
You can definitely take too much of either one of those.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Minerals are tricky, and which is why I like a good complete multi. There's what we call the upper limit. We talked about that, the tolerable upper limit. That means that we don't know them for all vitamins and minerals, but we know them for a significant amount. Like you take iron. I think we talked about this last episode. But I mean, you got 48 milligrams, and yet if you have less than 18 during the day, normally, it's a very small gap right there. Right. So if you're taking in a bunch of iron on the side, you're going to overdose on iron very easily. And the same thing with zinc, selenium. They all have those smaller windows. That's why a good complete multi will cover that perfectly.
And I just want to get into that just before we start saying the functions of these vitamins in the body. And someone's like, we talk about we'll start with vitamin A here, and we got its functions are for vision, immunity, growth, tissue strength, and antioxidant. And somebody's going to think, I'm going to just start pounding that. And then you're just going to...
Again, too much of anything. You got to remember, everybody, too much of anything. I don't care how good you think it is, whether it be... lean chicken and fish and vegetables. Too much is bad. Yeah. Okay, so and everything has what we call a bell curve, right? Where you're going up and like this. This is now benefit. Oh, you're going up too much. Oh, no benefit, death.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple.
That's when a good thing turns bad. So, all right, let's just get into it now. I think I just wanted all of that to be like a disclaimer before. Where like it's so easy to fall into this trap on social media where it's somebody's talking about the benefits of something, and then you're already at an adequate level in your current life, and then you think, oh, he just listed these things, I'm going to start taking the supplement. So I don't want that to happen.
And magnesium's a big one out there today, right?
Yeah.
Well, it helps. It helps me sleep. I take this magnesium. What if you're already getting 350 mgs, which is really the upper limit?
Depression, anxiety, all this stuff.
It's
so
crazy.
It's
You're 100% right.
Yeah. So I didn't want this to get taken out of context. So let's just start with vitamin A here, as we'll go through our fat solubles first, I guess. Okay. And we'll start with vitamin A, where it says the functions are vision, immunity, growth, tissue strength, and antioxidants.
Yeah.
So
primary functions. It functions in 100 other different systems in the body.
Right.
But when we think of it, now here's a good example for our listeners and so forth. In India, has the highest prevalence of blindness. Kids are born blind because they don't get enough vitamin A, and the mom doesn't get enough vitamin A in diet because guess what? The cow is sacred. They won't eat red meat. Yeah. They won't eat it that way. So they don't get nearly enough vitamin A without having some sort of meat in that whole thing. So there's like a crazy number. 10,000 people a year are born blind. I mean, that does not happen anywhere in the world except there. And again, that's just an example of how important it is for birth and for everything. And of course, reproduction. Too much vitamin A has been shown to be bad for reproduction, actually. Problems with the newborn baby. So again, there's that window there that's important. Right. So you got to hit that window. And you don't just, here's my classic. You don't just accidentally hit that window picking the foods you eat. Right. They're all different, where they can't. So it cracks me up. There's a real simple way of making sure you're always there.
Yeah. Well, some people don't believe in supplementation. So I guess what are the foods that you would find vitamin A in? Just
okay. Well, you got to come back to the not believing in supplementation in a minute. We got to do that.
I don't know if this is that episode.
I know, but what I meant is, but everyone's supplement. All these people that they don't believe it, they were supplementing in the womb with the prenatal. Right. They just didn't know it, and that's why they came out okay. Anyway, go ahead. We'll bring out another one.
Some people didn't come out okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's because they probably weren't supplementing the right prenatal.
Right. So we got the RDA for vitamin A is 700 to 900. Was that IUs or you?
Yeah, it's what we call relevant, equivalents. Retinol equivalent. So you got to. It's a difficult.
And one. I just want. Yeah, I know. I just want to say this so people, if they do supplement, they can go and check their vitamin, multivitamin, whatever vitamin they take, right? Yeah. And see if they have it, right? If they're getting close. So. And
then don't forget beta carotene, which you find in vegetables and so forth. That can be converted to vitamin A. Right. So generally, you'll have a mixture of vitamin A and beta carotene to get the vitamin A that your body needs in a vitamin. Right. So the RDA, or when recommended dietary allowances, I think there's an upper limit. We have 700 to 900 milligrams, which changes to IUs sometimes. They're making everybody put everything in milligrams now. Mm. That's why when I was talking about vitamin D, 1,000 IUs of vitamin D is 25 micrograms. So again, you got to put everything in micrograms and milligrams. They're trying to get rid of the IUs.
That's really doing my head in.
No, I know. That's what I mean. But again, if you look at a label on a vitamin, it'll tell you what what it is compared to the daily value or the recommended amounts.
All right. So food groups that you can find that in, you said meats, red meats.
And almost any kind of meat you're going to find vitamin A in.
Vitamin A.
And you can find it in vegetables, but it's just not absorbable in vegetables, and it's a very small amount because it gets locked in with phytic acid and oxalates. They hold it in the vegetable before you can get it out, before it goes all the way down your stomach into your lower intestines, and by that time you lose a lot of it. So you're always better making sure you're going to get that probably from your protein sources.
All right. So next one we got here is vitamin D, which is obviously just going rampant right now. So facilitates bone mineralization, development, and maintenance of what? And widely contributes to overall health as vitamin D receptors are located throughout the body. Yeah. So I guess.
Yeah, that's what we never knew. Everybody, people think of vitamin D, when scientists talk about it back in the day, it was all about proper absorption of calcium. Vitamin D facilitates calcium absorption into the body so it can go to the bone, ideally, okay? And also get into the body because we need like a certain amount of calcium in our blood, 24/7, or we're dead in no time. So we have a little bit in the blood, and we have almost 99% of calciums in the bone. So it's a very even balance. It's got to stay there. Now, vitamin D facilitates that process. So what would happen is everybody back in the day, not everybody, but so many people back in the day ended up with what we call rickets, which is a vitamin D deficiency disease where the bones don't form right because vitamin D is involved in making calcium get in there. And that's why we started fortifying milk with vitamin D, because we couldn't get it. Because we're all now working indoors. We weren't farming anymore. So the sun was the only source that we used to get. And it's not available in the diet, in the typical diet. Salmon, so fatty fish, you'd have to have, some like salmon, you'll find it in that. And there's some other sources. You find it fortified now everywhere and everything. Right. You find it in milk, obviously is fortified because it's not natural in cow's milk. So they put it in there because most people drink milk. So that was a way of getting it in. So you see vitamin D fortification because, and again, you can get it out of a couple of different vegetables, but it's not very readily available. You really have to supplement vitamin D to get the amount the body truly needs.
Right. And obviously we have the sun, right?
Yeah.
But as we said in the last one, is not the best way to get it because that's going to come with
Well, yeah,
1,000 different
and you can't count
consequences.
on it because depending on what latitude you are,
Right.
you'd really have to lay out naked every day, completely, for about 30 minutes when the sun's in the right place to be able to count that. And then, of course, no one's going to do that. And no one wants to see that either, by the way. Okay. Because they won't be able to unsee it.
It has to be naked. No.
Well, yeah, in other words, you have to have really everything, your whole
swimsuit?
body pretty much exposed, to get that. So don't count on the sun.
Right.
Sun will get you some, and sun's a little sun's good for you. We all know that, but don't count on that for your vitamin D.
Right.
Just forget it.
Because, and then we got I'm just going to go over the RDAs
Yeah, sure,
regardless,
sure.
and you can say whether that's
I
going
will,
to be
yes.
sufficient or not, with what you know in your expertise. But this is what the science says, right? But RDA is 15 to 20, and then you said that was
That's micrograms.
micrograms?
Yeah, that changed after. It used to be it's 800 IUs. You transfer that into that.
Right.
Now, so that's a joke. I easily say this is one of the ones that's a joke, and there's very few scientists that would disagree with that. That is way too low.
Yeah.
We understand that now. It was probably fine if you were laying naked in the sun, but I can't get over that thought process. But the bottom line is it's not enough now. Now that we see receptors all over the body, it's not just about bone health. It's about depression. It's about all these other things that vitamin D can affect, okay, including cardiovascular health. There's so many different things that vitamin D is involved in now that we find receptors all over the body. The way the brain works, cognitive functioning, all these things, falls, balance. There's so many things that it's involved in. Of course, that has to do with bone strength and muscle strength too. We want our athletes at a very high amount. Almost all athletes are taking about 2,000 IUs, which would be 50.
Yeah, I take
micrograms.
5,000. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and that gets you to the number we're looking for. Up to 100 nanograms per milliliter is what the blood level would be. That's the maximum we like. Where we like is anywhere between 30 and that somewhere, but athletes higher because they're always covered up too.
And yeah, you had mentioned the foods you can find that. Okay, so and like I said, we're going over the RDAs. If you want to check your vitamin, whatever, or if you can somehow gather your information and see if you're getting sufficient amount. If not, always go see a nutritionist or a
right.
doctor,
About vitamin
get a
D,
blood test, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So next one here, we got vitamin E, which functions are listed as antioxidant, cell signaling, and gene expression and immune function.
Yeah. Again, those are the primary functions of it. You find it all over those systems in the body. Okay, so when you have not enough vitamin E daily, then those systems don't work well. It's pretty simple math all the way around. And I think, what's the RDA on that?
RDA is 15, and this one actually just says mg. Is that
milligrams? Milligrams, correct.
Right.
Yeah, that's been altered because that used to be IUs as well. Now they moved it to milligrams. Now, and on that, you can get that you can find that in some vegetables, but you find it in fats. So it's high in any kind of other kind of lipid content because it's a fat soluble vitamin. So that's where we find it. You'll find it in meats. You'll get it in fatty foods or even not fatty foods, as long as it's got some fat in it. That's where vitamin E is going to be. Yeah. If you're eating it, and then there's some vegetables as well.
And my last few brain cells just put this together. That UL is upper limit.
Upper limit, correct.
All right.
Call
So,
upper
and
limit.
then 1,000 milligrams for vitamin E would be the upper limit.
Well, that's definitely the upper limit. Yeah, and again, there are people that take very high doses of vitamin E for some extra antioxidant protection, which. Listen, I'm all for 200 or 300, IUs, and would be I forget the milligrams on that crossover. I can't do all the math all the time in my head very well, but it's anyway. The bottom line is I'm all for that. But 1,000 again, we in other words, if you were taking in 1,000 milligrams a day, you're gonna start having problems if you're doing that a day. But I don't know anybody that takes that many. Yeah. Then you're medicating yourself with something. So you need a specialist there because you've got some kind of vitamin E defective.
You're compensating for something. Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Right. And then just to backtrack a little bit, vitamin A, the upper limit would be 3,000 micrograms then.
Yeah, that's right. But that's of the retinol. equivalents, which is the hardcore vitamin A. There's no upper limit to beta carotene.
Yeah.
Because your body just converts that as it needs vitamin A.
And then D, upper limit is 1,000 micrograms,
Which is a
translates
huge,
to what?
huge. No, that's 4,000. It's actually, I'm sorry, it's 4,000 IUs.
Right.
Yeah, which is 100 mics. Okay, now that is a joke. So
Yeah, I mean, because
right,
I'm pass that on a daily basis.
So everybody listening should know this, that the public sector scientists that make up all these rules here, they actually work in the private sector and they donate their time for some of this shit here that is just old fashioned. It's just old fashioned.
Right.
It's just, in other words, they just haven't. They just stopped working in the public sector, creating, write these docs. When you look at all your top endocrinology doctors, are all going to say vitamin D at these higher levels are what you need. So you got to stick with that. That's what we do. We take the evidence, considered the evidence-based newer science, and we use that rather than the conservative, sort of stuff.
Right. And then, I mean, that's your function in all of this is to like be that buffer between this and the
psychos that overdo it.
And then the public sector,
right.
So just coming in and just spitting some expertise, so it's we're doing a good thing here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So back to that, we are at folate now. Okay. So folate that's a vitamin?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a B vitamin.
A B vitamin.
Yeah. They just get different. I think it's, what is it called? B, it's not, it's B7. They named them all by when they discovered it. B1 was the first vitamin discovered. B2 was the second. That's how. Well, now that doesn't make any sense.
So they got
anymore.
that listed here.
Yeah.
As
a nutrient of concern.
Yeah, and so this one, they got the U.S. population. 75% of the U.S. population is not meeting their folate needs. So here we got its functions are DNA and hemoglobin synthesis, cell division / prevention of birth defects, reduces blood homocysteine.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
Yep.
Right,
Which is stuff that we measure in the brain that ends up with cognitive problems if it's too high.
Right.
It helps reduce
and then red blood cell production.
Yeah.
All right. So
big one there. Yeah. And the reason that is when we talked about the prenatal is nothing more than a multivitamin mineral that has those 20, potentially underconsumed, but folate is the big one in it. So when a mom, what we discovered when the prenatal came out, it became mandatory in the 70s. We talked about it last episode. Became mandatory in the 70s. The AMA, American Medical Association, Pediatric Association, Dietetic Association, all conceiving moms need to take a multivitamin. Well, the folate, that was the folate, wiped out over 30% of major birth defects, neural tube defects. And so it became this like amazing, that's like staggering numbers, needless to say. And that's just because it just does the spinal cord, none of it ends up functioning properly because it never developed properly because it didn't have enough folic acid. So that's that. But now when you're in adulthood, the functioning of folate beyond the formation of the spinal cord and so forth is cognitive, protection, hemoglobin, DNA, protecting DNA, all these types of things. Cell division.
Cool. And that RDA will be 400 micrograms, upper limit 1,000 micrograms.
Exactly. And that's probably a pretty good number all the way around.
Wants to check that. And you said the foods that you can find it in?
Yeah, right now they've started fortifying bread because people weren't getting enough folate, so they started fortifying foods. But you don't want too much folate. That's why I'm not a fan of fortification. I mean, without fortification, we'd be screwed. We all would have died of nutrient deficiencies a long time ago. So that's why people go, well, I don't believe in supplementing. Well, you are. If you're eating any of our food, you're supplementing because we're supplementing the food for you. I just don't know if you're going to eat that food, so who knows? Yeah. But anyway, so that's those you'll also find it in some fruits and vegetables and so forth as well. And of course, any organ meats, any red meats.
Right. So now is that for all the vitamins? Because is magnesium, iron, calcium, potassium, and fiber? Those are all minerals.
Yeah. Well, fiber's not.
The
fiber's
fiber,
a carbohydrate.
maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on to the next one here. We got magnesium, which is coming in.
Oh, we said vitamin C. We forgot that one, didn't we? Oh. That's a big one.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a nutrient of concern.
Oh yeah, but it doesn't. I don't have it here. Oh, because that's a water soluble, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's why it's spread out. Yeah, the way I think that sheet's all written that way. Since it was something I wrote
Okay, yeah. And so, all right, moving on to vitamin C here, which I would never have thought this is something that is of concern because
I know you
I feel like I get so much of it.
I know we always do because the way we not just the way we eat, but we supplement.
Yeah. Well, you just think of I mean, I'm somebody that just like all citrus fruits are crazy with it, right? And then mangoes.
You're still not getting as much as you could probably use to be extra healthy. You have to eat a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
You'd have to eat a lot. I mean, you'll get the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance of it. You'll get that. But that's another one. This is like vitamin D. It's one that you need to go significantly over if you want to maximize health.
Right. So, okay.
You'll
so
be
we
okay
got,
with
yeah. So vitamin C, collagen / connective tissue synthesis and maintenance, wound healing, antioxidant, immune support, which I think that's why everyone supplements vitamin D. I think for the most part is like they think it's boosting their immune system.
You mean vitamin C?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so,
I think that's the number one thing because of that old thing. Linus Pauling was the genius. 2 Nobel Prizes, and he was a big proponent of high doses of vitamin C. It doesn't cure the cold. It shortens the duration of a cold when your immune system's strong, without a doubt. The only reason it can protect you a little bit because your epithelial tissues, they would be as good as they could be if you had high dose vitamin C. So that might keep the bug from getting into your system. Nothing stops a bug from getting into you if you're in contact with people. But it does shorten the duration. It makes it easier to endure a cold, all those kind of things. And that's on the immune side. But there's other things as well. Powerful antioxidant all by itself, and especially for athletes. We have every athlete on at least 1,000 milligrams a day. Okay. And like me, I've always taken 3 as a professional athlete. I took 3 grams. So that would be 3,000 milligrams a day. I always have. And I think I brought you up doing the same thing. Just to protect the overall everything. And the upper limit, the reason it's 1,000 milligrams, the upper limit, is because some people get a stomach upset when they take too much at once. Yeah. But if you get a good buffered formula, then you don't have to worry about that.
And we got vitamin C coming in at just around 48% of the U.S. population not meeting their RDAs.
Which is nothing. I know. That's like eating an orange.
Right.
It's pretty crazy.
All right, so that's the vitamins. Going on to the minerals here that are of concern here. And these are the ones of heavy concern.
Heavy concern, right. There's plenty of them that you're missing, might be missing below, a little bit below, which are still of concern as far as I'm concerned. But serious concern just means that something is going to happen later in life.
Yeah.
It's that silent hunger.
Okay, yeah, so that's
silent hunger.
That's the concern. Something will
later on in life, you're going to pay the price.
If you're underneath the RDA.
Yeah, for your whole life, yes.
Yeah.
When I say when you are as low as we're talking about the RDA, right?
Right.
Is low, and we're not a little bit under it.
Well, according to the data here, we got 50% of people under this. So later on in life,
they're going to pay the price.
You're going to pay
the price. Something's going to go wrong, whether your cardiovascular system, cognitively, early dementia, early osteoporosis, which is a bone thinning, all these little age-related diseases that are 100% preventable. Not 100%,
right? And
pretty
we're not,
much preventable.
And like that's like our main thing here is we're not trying to do like any fear mongering, but that is like true fear that we're trying to strike into because that is the God honest truth, right?
Exactly.
Nothing's going to happen to you today, tomorrow, maybe in the next few years, but I mean, for some of you, it's too late. For some people, it's too late at this point.
Like I said, it's a silent hunger.
Yeah.
When you're hungry for your food, for your calories, your stomach hurts and you want to go eat.
Yeah.
You can't hear magnesium's low, Mr. Spruce. Your magnesium's low. You need 200 more milligrams every single day. Otherwise, you're going to break later on in life. And every day, it's chipping away at a little bit. I'm down-regulating. My bones are getting weaker. My cardiovascular system's getting weaker. My dementia's... It hasn't... I don't know it's there yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Right. It's because you're low on these things for a long period of time, and it finally catches up with you. Silent hunger.
There you go. So, yeah, that we are, like... a little bit trying to strike some fear into you.
Yeah, I am.
To just take a multivitamin, right?
I'm trying to keep Big Pharma out of your house.
Right.
Otherwise you're just taking medication the rest of your life, like 2/3 of Americans.
All right. So we're going to the minerals now. Okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, heavily underconsumed, ones of real concern here that something bad will eventually happen to you if you're not.
That's right.
eating these.
Or happening a hell of a lot sooner than it would
Yeah,
otherwise. That's
right.
what it comes down to.
So we got magnesium here. Magnesium coming in at 68% of the U.S. population not meeting their
Minimum needs.
minimum needs.
Right.
The minimum.
Yeah,
You know?
talking
So it is the functions are a cofactor in over 300 enzymes that utilize nucleotide triphosphates such as ATP,
ATP,
to synthesize body
energy.
components, produce energy, and help. And the RDA we got at 320 to 420 milligrams, upper limit 350 milligrams. So that's a tight window.
Well, yeah, it is. But here's the thing on that. What they did with magnesium is they call that the upper limit supplements only. Don't worry, you'll never get enough out of your diet to hit the upper limit. That'll never happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to supplement magnesium, which everybody should be pretty much, but you're not going to go up to 450 unless you're taking it.
Upper limit says 350.
No, I know 350, but that's from supplements only.
Oh.
Okay, so in other words, you're not going to supplement any more than that. That would be the most, unless you're taking it, a doctor prescribed it for something else in your life because you've got a magnesium absorption deficiency and you're trying to overcome that. Then you have to blast your body with it, and that would be a diagnosis, though, in order to find that. But magnesium's number one job, well, number one, it's got hundreds and hundreds of jobs, but really, truly is, it's a cofactor in making the energy in our bodies. All of it there, in the electron transport chain, everything. And so it really is something that you can't do without. And if you don't get enough, then it can't protect DNA, and your cells don't divide properly. All these bad things happen when you're not getting it because it's all being triaged over to something else. That's a big one. Magnesium, big one right now. High shortages, and now we're learning more and more. And I'm sure that the upper limit will start going up a little bit, but then again, that's supplements only. Yeah. You're never going to hurt your diet. Your body will kind of figure out what it needs to do.
There's other forms of this because, the algorithm these days, it was pushing me vitamin D before we went over extensively talking about it. Now it's pushing magnesium towards me. And it's saying like L-threonate or whatever it is.
That's a form of magnesium. Right. Yeah, they're mixing it with an amino acid. Okay. See, it's called an amino acid chelate. Chelate means to claw. So you take the magnesium in its raw form, its elemental form, like it's found in the dirt. Mm-hmm. Okay, then you put some amino acids around it, and that when you ingest it, the body looks at an amino acid, grabs it, and brings it in. Sometimes magnesium is very difficult to absorb otherwise because it just kind of goes right through your body. So you got to have it in a form. It could be a citrate. It could be a malate. There's all kinds of different forms of that. There's magnesium oxide. Probably not the greatest form, but it's okay to mix it as long as you have other ones along.
And foods that magnesium's in?
Yeah, your vegetables and fruits. You're going to find in that. It's the chlorophyll, and it's part of chlorophyll in your green vegetables and so forth.
That comes from the earth, basically.
Yeah.
Like
everything
all
does.
minerals,
all minerals come from the soil. Yeah, that's where it all started. Everything's 100% recycled. All the way around.
All right. Next one we got here is iron, and iron is. So, how do they choose from this list here, Because, you got iron here, which is heavily... Is it because of the importance of it, too? Is there,
Well, yeah, iron... But here's the...
34% don't
Here's
get
the
their intake.
irony of iron. It is one of the most underconsumed nutrients in the world, not just the U.S., but it's one you can't just take a separate supplement, without beginning a blood test, a ferritin level. Because it's dangerous if you take too much. You get an iron overload, okay, and then everything gets screwed up in the whole body. Because don't forget, you can't transport oxygen in the blood without it.
Yeah, let me go over the functions real quick since you're about to touch on to that. Essential in oxygen transport, as you were saying, blood cell formation, cofactor in amino acid respiration, lipid.
Yep.
These are commas in between these. Glucose and antibody metabolism / production.
Yep.
RDA 8 to 18 milligrams, upper limit 45 milligrams.
Yep.
So, as you were saying about the oxygen transport.
Yeah, that's why when people are low on iron, like a lot of female athletes that we test, they're low on iron. They're just they become anemic. All right, and again, subpar performances will start happening, and that's because they don't choose the right foods. You're not going to get it from anything other than red meat. You're not going to get it. Spinach is loaded with iron, but you're going to get about 1/10 or 1/20th out of it because you can't. It's phytic acids and oxalate will bind it up. So that's why the cow's already eaten the grass and already converted it to what we use as humans, so we eat that. So it's always, some people that avoid meat now, they definitely have to supplement. no question. But before you do want a blood test on that and get your ferritin levels checked, because ferritin is the enzyme that is involved in iron that carries everything. And if we measure those levels, we know how much iron's in the body at that time.
I mean, my knowledge isn't that deep, but females tend to be iron deficient because they
all
bleed,
mincing,
right?
Postmenopausal, premenopausal.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And that's why they don't need iron necessarily after menopause, but I would still argue because of diet, you got to get you still want 18 milligrams a day, one way or another. You got to get some iron from your diet no matter what. So a lot of multis don't have iron in it because they're afraid to breach that number. We always put a little bit, and that's why our people love our multi, because they go, God, I can actually feel a difference after a week or two, which is unusual. That just means they're low on iron, and the iron's kind of kicked in the right amounts with everything else. Other multis just won't put iron in it because they're afraid a doctor's going to say, well, I don't think you would need iron, without a blood test or whatever.
We're treading the territory of a shameless plug. So,
I'm just trying to say there's a reason why you do it right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and as you were saying, irons, meats, and
just organ meats and regular meats, red meat. Because that blood, remember, it's blood. It's in blood, and so whatever you're going to eat that used to be bloody, is definitely going to have stuff in there, no matter what. So basically, you're looking at muscle meats, things like that's your best sources. But you can get it if you eat enough vegetables. You could, but you don't want to sit in a room with that person. Yeah. I'll tell you that right now.
All right. So calcium we got for the next one, which is a big one here. We got 73% of the U.S. population not meeting their needs, and calcium is. Where are we at here? I don't think we have it.
It's on the same page.
Oh, calcium we got. All right, functions. Bone and tooth formation, muscle and nerve signaling, blood clotting, and myriad other metabolic reactions. You got the RDA here at 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams. Upper limit 2,000 to 2,500 milligrams. This is something I've been told, be careful taking too much of.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think I like the 1,200 numbers good. I think 2,000 is actually a little high for upper limit. This is one of those kind of ones that's kind of backwards. And the reason is calcium is obviously needed for bone. Your body's going to use about 1,000 milligrams of calcium a day. Let's just round it off to that because it's 800 when you're, early, when you're real young, an infant. And then it goes all the way up to 1,300 as you get older. Okay, so let's just call it 1,000 milligrams a day. So if you don't get 1,000 milligrams a day, which is what you need to maintain your blood level at 1%, like we mentioned this before, 1% of calcium's in the blood, 99% in the bone. But that 1% in the blood, if that ever changes too much, you're dead within probably 2 or 3 minutes because your muscles can't contract. Nothing can happen. Your heart can't beat. Lung. Calcium's involved in every single contraction throughout the body. So the bone basically to the body is just a reservoir for calcium, even though it needs it to get you moving and so forth. After that, if you don't take that 1,000 milligrams a day, which you're going to need regularly, your body just taps into the bone, pulls it out. Well, what happens to your bone? It gets weaker, 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 and that's that silent hunger. You're not getting enough calcium, Mr. Spruce. So you're going to break really early osteopenia and osteoporosis, probably around age 60 at this rate, or 70, okay? So you can't hear that. So I will just break then. Now, if it was me, of course, I won't have to worry about that. Not only if I pass that age, my bones, they can't even, when they do athletic surgery on me, they can't even drill through my bones. They're so hard. So so the problem is now what's going to happen, your bones are getting weaker, but it's keeping you alive. And that's how the body triages the nutrients that come into you. When you're not getting what your body needs every day, it's got to go find it somewhere to keep it there, and something else is sacrificed. So to keep you alive, your body will sacrifice long-term health for short-term survival. So you have enough calcium to live every day, heart pump, do all those things because it's in your blood. And then if it doesn't get enough, it just pulls out of your bone because you just didn't need enough, which 73% of the population does not.
Rip.
But taking too much of it, the problem there, that's when you start seeing it showing up maybe in the cardiovascular system.
Right.
That's why it's important, though, to take vitamin K2 with calcium. Don't take it in a vacuum. People that take calcium supplements, even calcium and vitamin D is dumb by itself. You want to make sure you got vitamin K along with it. and a little magnesium too. The vitamin K will take that calcium you're taking in. This is why you heard it might not be good for guys, because you end up seeing some of this calcium be deposited from, because you're taking calcium supplements without the vitamin K. It'll end up, because it didn't get chaperoned to the bone, it ends up in the cardiovascular system when you're taking a little more than you need. And that'll end up with a cardiovascular event. Atherosclerosis or, any of those things.
And you can get kidney stones, right, from too much calcium?
No, that's pretty much a myth. You're not going to get kidney stones from it. I mean, people I've seen studies, so it's actually the opposite. They actually reduce kidney stones, and I've seen some of the older ones causes kidney stones. It was something else these people were doing. Kidney stones basically are genetic.
Yeah, so don't take that to the bank. Yeah, and that's funny that you mentioned the K2 thing, because when I was going through my autoimmune thing and where I'm no longer allowed to have dairy, they were saying I need to start supplement, especially if I'm going to take omeprazole every day, which is the acid reducer.
Yeah.
They say that's going to weaken you a little, your bones and stuff, so you need to take a calcium supplement. They said make sure it has K2.
Very good. There's some people out there that are getting it. We were the very first to ever put K2 with calcium. No one had ever done that before.
I work, Dr. B has hooked me up with some good doctors.
Yeah.
All right. So next one we got here is potassium, and that is coming in at the top of the list here with 100% of the U.S. population not meeting. All right, if you're the one dude that really supplements it and you get it, great. But on the whole,
this is a tricky one.
1 in 1,000 is basically 0%. So yeah.
But no one supplementing it, like we don't even. I don't even tell people to. You want to get that from your foods. You need like 3,500 milligrams a day. No one gets that much. The problem with supplementing it becomes dangerous to the kidney. It affects the kidney if you're getting the wrong number. So everyone stays away from. You'll never find potassium in a multivitamin, because 3,500. I mean, how are you going to fit that in a multi if you really had to supplement it? So you have to buy it separately, and they won't even let you buy it. The law, as I recall, and I could be wrong, but somebody can fact check me on this. So I think you're only allowed to have 99 milligrams in a potassium one tablet. So in other words, if you really wanted to supplement, you needed like 2,000 milligrams. How many tablets is that? That's 20.
So
that's why we don't make it, because your body will figure out what to do. As long as you're eating any kind of normal diet, you're going to get it close enough. And I don't even, that's a tough one to explain, because you can't put it in a multi. You have to take it separately, and you need a recommendation. You really want to get your kidneys checked and everything done. I've never taken a potassium supplement, and I doubt I'm getting 3,500.
Yeah, so how are they doing that to us, telling us 100% are missing, and then
that's from the diet. From the diet, it's below that somewhere. Maybe it's 3,000, and it's not that big a deal. It's not. The only reason it's considered a nutrient of concern is it on the list for concern.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
I know it's the top, but that doesn't mean anything. Is it on the list of nutrients of concern?
Yeah, you sent
okay.
me that.
I'm only asking a question. I don't remember everything that's on there. That means that what it means is this: it's because of sodium. If you get this, your potassium will offset the sodium that 100% of the population basically is taking too much sodium. Potassium can offset that and get your blood, your heart back to kind of normal when potassium kind of offsets that.
I can read off. I want to read off the functions here, which are main cationic osmolyte.
It's an osmolyte. Yeah, it balances the waters on both sides of the cell.
Main
cation.
Cationic?
Yeah.
Main cationic osmolyte within cells necessary for controlling water balance / blood pressure, impulses, signaling, muscle contractions and transmissions throughout tissues, as well as enzyme enzyme activation and nutrient transport. Yeah, I'm struggling. And it's saying what's AI? AI, as in like the recommend, where it usually says RDA, it's saying AI.
Adequate intake.
Adequate intake is 4.7 grams.
Yeah.
And then the upper limit is non-disclosed.
Yeah, they don't know what it is. There's no established upper limit on it yet.
4.7 grams seems like a lot.
That's a lot. That's 4,700 milligrams. Yeah, it is. And then so the thing is, it's a tricky one because of the osmolyte factor of it. You supplement too much and you end up retaining water. Your body does a pretty good job balancing it all out. It's another one. It's another one, even though it's got a big number in it, it's another one like iron. If you're going to get a recommendation for potassium, you got to have blood tests.
You got to have blood tests for
on that one, on potassium.
For potassium. iron.
Yeah. If you're going to supplement it separately, correct.
Right.
Actually, many of them, but if you're going to supplement vitamin C and D, you don't have to worry about.
How do they do that to us, saying 100% of us are missing it, and then we got to be
Because
supplementing
they
it,
look in the
then-
diet and it's below the recommended amount. That's all they do. They look at what the average person's eating, and we don't eat potassium-rich foods.
All right, so
those
what- yeah, so,
those
I
are
mean,
vegetables. Now vegans would get enough, even though it's a little hard to extract it from it. They would probably get enough of it.
I mean, this seems a little misleading, or not misleading.
No, it's
just
not.
like
It's you got to understand how they do it, though.
tell me
They're
how they do
looking at food
food intake.
and you're well below the recommended amount of potassium in almost all the population.
Right, but you're saying food, right? But then you're also saying be careful. No one's going to allow you to like supplement it without.
They do, but you want a blood test for it. That's all. Because you could be getting 4,000 from food or 3,000. You're still below it, so you still end up on the list.
Yeah, and this is what we're trying to caution
Yeah,
people of.
yeah.
We're not trying to like fearmonger you and say, oh yeah, like potassium. No, go get a blood test
on
and
potassium,
figure it out. We're not out here
But
trying to
before you
sell
get a
you
blood
on.
test-
It's so many people will look at this though. This is my problem with the internet. Is like so many people will look at this. Like it's like they almost like go look up the nutrients for concern.
Yeah.
Set up like basically TikTok shop where they can like get permission to sell these supplements and get a commission off of it and be like, look guys, potassium's at the top of the list. You need to start taking this, and you might just be fucking people.
Yeah, totally.
Like,
Yeah, and again, that's why influencers, they have no business. Here's what influencers do. I have my little thing for influencers. Nutrition influencers sell nutrition. Nutrition influencers know nothing about nutrition, and they sell nutrition to people that know nothing about nutrition.
Right.
That's the fucked up part about what's. I love
it's
the
a
internet for other things.
blind leading
That's
the blind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have to plug into an authoritative person like the thousands and thousands of health clubs and sports teams we work with. They plug into us because they know they're going to get the right answer, and that should just permeate through everything. You're going to get the right current answer. That doesn't mean it's not going to change down the road, but because we're stay up with current science. But the bottom line is you're going to get the right answer. If there was a way to turn off all, in Europe they're doing it though. They're actually cutting out influencers on nutrition. They have to qualify in a certain way. Yeah, totally. But anyway, on any of those things, first of all, I know we keep talking about blood work for this stuff here. Let's stop there for a minute. Whatever you do, don't get any blood work until you're taking a complete multivitamin mineral for at least 6 months. A good one that's taking care of all of those 20 that we just talked about, other than the potassium, because that's separate.
We talked about the 10 that are like extreme.
And they'll all be taken care of.
There's 20 in total.
Those will all be taken care of if you are. And then after that, you're going to, then you can go get a blood test to see if there's anything else you wanted to add separately. And I'd be shocked if there was, other than vitamin D. And then vitamin C, you're going to pass the blood test if you get anywhere close to what but you still want maybe a little bit more. That's just a general recommendation by people that are in the know.
Right.
C and D can go above all
and
that.
these 10 are like what you're saying. What you're saying is these 10 we just went over are the ones that are like, because you're saying there's 20 of concern and some of it's like 15%.
There's only 10 of concern. 20 that are potentially under consumed.
Oh, okay.
The 10 are concerned means they're way under consumed by the majority of the population.
Those are the ones we just went over, and those are the ones we wanted
and because
to touch on.
they're way below what they should.
Right.
If you're just not that far below, it's not a nutrient of concern. But you still fall into that category being below.
Right.
But it's not a nutrient of concern until you fall way below. And that means you're below the average intake, the average, the average adequate intake.
And we can leave a link to this, right?
Yeah, of course,
So people can come and look at it themselves, because there's other ones. You go get a blood test, find out if you're low. Is that you can do that, right? Get a blood test, see
for
where you're lacking.
blood test, but you don't need a blood test. But blood tests for like mineral levels in your body there really aren't any good tests for those other than iron. They have to do that for iron. It's very important. So they figured out all those there. Otherwise, you got to take tissue samples, biopsies, to find out, if the enzymes are all pumped up. Now, it's pretty complicated. So they don't really have any really inexpensive, relatively good tests for that. So you just take the complete multivitamin mineral, at least for 6 months. Then you can go down. And they'll see if there's anything that looks unusual, because there'll be a sign of something if there. Do that first. Get your baseline stuff covered.
Actually, you were also saying zinc. Should we go over that one too?
Zinc is something. That's a common one that people use now during cold season.
That's like the fringe one here, right? Where it's like, is that the ones that are underconsumed, and then
it's one of the ones that's a nutrient of concern. I think isn't it on that list.
It's nutrient of concern, but you said there's we're going over the two categories, right? Of there's ones that are like heavily, right?
That's the nutrients of concerns are the ones that are the most worrisome.
Right.
They're the ones that there's a majority of many people in the population are down at that level.
Right.
Okay,
and then
below the ear or
I know we have the 20
average.
here, and then that's
those
the
are just
speculation.
potential. All of them.
Speculation.
No, those are okay. Gotta make sure you get it right. If you're not getting it, then our audience isn't either. Okay, the 20 or the 18, whatever are listed there. Mm-hmm. Those are the percentage of the population not hitting that individual one. If you're not taking a complete multi, you're in at least 5 or all of those categories. Now, the nutrients of concern. They're listed in there, obviously, too, right? Okay. But when people are low on those, they're way low on those.
Okay.
But they're on that, and they're there, but they're way low on those.
So
they're
we're
below
really
the
missing.
ear.
Okay, so but you were saying that zinc might be on that list of what we're way low on.
Well, no,
or is it just a concern?
It's I mean, it's on the list of nutrients of concern, as I recall.
It is on the list.
But
of concern.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I know. I just want to know if we need to bundle it in with the ones that you had here of what we're
the ones that I typed out.
Yeah.
No, if it's not on there, then you don't need to put it there as a nutrient of concern.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Of the ones that are really worrisome.
As we were saying, the really worrisome vitamins here. So there's 20 of concern, but the worrisome ones are vitamin A, which 55% of the population is not getting. Vitamin C, which 48% is not getting enough. Yeah. Vitamin D, which 97% of the population is not getting. E, 86% of the population. Folate here, we got 75% of the population not meeting it. And magnesium is 68% of the population. Iron, 34%, but that's like one. Well, so like, why does that one make it in there so deep? And it's such a wide disparity.
And because if they're low, they're really low.
They're really low. Okay. And then calcium, which is always a big one here, 73%. Potassium, we got 100%, as we were just
as we were talking about.
Yeah. All right. And so, like I said, we'll leave a link to this if you want to look it over. It's quite lengthy. It's 78 pages long.
And that's without the references, which are hundreds and hundreds of references with it.
Yeah. So
it's a long one, yeah.
But we try to condense it down for you, touch on the main points of what you need and what your what the
I just want to make
population
it
is
easier for
severely
everybody,
low.
Though.
And so a take-home thing is a multivitamin, right?
Oh, a complete multivitamin that's got the 20 potentially underconsumed nutrients in it.
Right.
Because you're not going to hurt yourself if you go over a little bit, because we have a huge upper limit, big wide gap of safety. But when you start doing supplements separately, separate zinc, separate folate, separate any of the vitamins separately, then you got to start thinking about vitamin E, too much of it. You want to make sure that those are the things you want to check to make sure, or selenium, right, or any of these things. You don't want to take these separately without clearance from a qualified medical professional. Most medical professionals don't know anything about nutrition, so make sure they're qualified.
And just for transparency, we're not trying to sell you on anything. We're trying to give you the information here so you can go check your own multivitamin. We'll leave a link to this, like I said, this article here. You can check your own vitamin, see if you're getting it. And one day down the road, we'll do a product review we'll get a bunch of multivitamins together, and we'll see, we'll gather the most consumed multivitamins and see if they're up to the standard, and we'll tell you if it's good, keep running it, or get a new one. Okay. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Anything you want to say?
No, I think that everyone really needs to leave with the right, there's something, and again, I'm not knocking anybody out here because people have asked me many times, well, can I just get it all from food? And I just go, yeah, you want to be a fat fuck? You know, you'd have to eat about 30,000 calories to really get all the nutrients at the right levels. Or you could eat meals that taste like shit. Those are really your two options. So it'd be organ meats like kidneys and beef tongue and liver, and then spinach and the things that you're just not going to stick with for long. Now, there's might be a 1%ers out there that can do that, but at the same time, you still don't know if the food's in there, if the vitamins and minerals are in there,
Right.
unless you test it after you cook it, because it came from a different region. It's not the soil, it's not the plant. You're eating that plant and it didn't have zinc in it because it wasn't in the soil, which there's a lot of regions like that now. Then you can't count on it. So why not for 50 cents a day? Because that would be a good one's probably somewhere around that price, as I recall. Take a complete multivitamin mineral and call it a fucking night. That's it. Call it a day. There's something wrong. You are not connecting the dots if you don't.
Yeah.
And I had this argument with a doc because they go, well, vitamins and minerals, they haven't been proved to help people live longer. And they go, those studies are stupid. You can't follow someone. It'd be unethical in the first place. This group will never take a multivitamin mineral, and this group will take one, a complete that has all 20 now. Can't just be 2 or 3 like the ones they use in tests. All 20 of the possible underconsumed. Follow them from womb to tomb. And these people can't do that. That's unethical in the first place, right, because that you're depriving those people of things that they probably need. So I go, it's a joke. Just do it, because it doesn't make any sense to argue about it. And of course, obviously there are things Big Pharma doesn't want you to know. They just know you're going to be healthier if you do from day one, just like with prenatal. Just like it fixed so many problems, and just like that. So I mean, it just makes all the sense. 1 + 1 = 2.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned about having to eat a disgusting diet to hit what you need to eat. But that's going to take us into a segment in the future here where we have that saying in the house of it's not about taste, it's about results. So that will be something we'll introduce in some future episodes here.
But it is about taste for the average American.
I know. Well, we're going to put that to the test.
Yeah, right.
We're going to put that.
No one's going to do that.
For the content, we're going to put it to the test.
For sure.
Because I can't eat disgusting shit, but we're gonna try, and then we'll see if it's really worth.
We eat for when you're an athlete, you eat for performance.
Exactly.
But you'd be surprised how many great athletes, when they're young, because your body does everything better when you're young, but they eat like shit. Okay, but they get enough calories. And that's all they need to propel. When they get in their late 20s and early 30s, which is an old athlete nowadays, then they're eating perfect to prolong their careers.
All right, so we'll get into performance in a future episode.
Okay.
That's going to be the end of this one.
Okay.
Remember, just take a multivitamin. That's the takeaway from this. Okay, right. And you'll probably cover your ass on all this.
Right.
Like I said, future episode.
And you can add some extra C and D if you want, and you're good to go.
And we'll get into
that was easy.
Vitamin reviews in the future. We'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.